Part 56. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 560. After a while, Sun Hongkai's announcement was also issued, supporting Chen's capital, denouncing Lu Feng's behavior of disrupting the market, and asking the Securities Regulatory Commission to severely punish such behaviors to set an example. At the same time, the announcement stated the friendship between Sun Hongkai and Chen's capital. When Chen's capital was just established, Sun Hongkai helped a lot in the past few years. When Sun Hongkai encountered difficulties, Chen's capital also supported each other. In fact, it is a normal commercial bridge lending behavior. In the evening, on a stock analysis program on TV, a man in a suit and tie spoke impassively with a pen in his hand. As you can see, today's market was originally up across the board. The Hang Seng Index rose by 1 point, and the financial stock exchanges, Sun Hongkai, and Beilihao, the industry leaders, bought a lot after the market opened. I also said a few days ago that the inflow of funds during this period will be very large, and overseas funds will be bought in large quantities. We don't care what the dealers and institutions think, as long as they follow my methods and ideas, there will be absolutely no problem. There must be investment ideas. Then let's watch the afternoon session next. As soon as the market opened in the afternoon, a financial company encountered a black swan incident, and Lu Feng, who claimed to be the richest man in the mainland, came here again, doing something. I believe everyone can read some of the gossip about this matter. Follow the gossip media. As soon as this incident broke out, it actually had no impact on the broader market. What did it really affect? It was Lu Feng who said that Chen's capital had already incurred losses in the accounts. $16 too. Many people in the industry have been blown up. Some time ago, Chen's capital repurchased shares, and some people felt that something was wrong. This happened today. Many friends called me and asked me if I could buy them, and their business conditions. Is there any problem? What I want to say is that the investment of Chen's capital is basically stable, and there is no major incident. This is definitely a good opportunity to buy the bottom, and it is very likely that the richest man in the mainland is their own people. This kind of thing see you more. Analysts are talking non-stop. All kinds of professional things have made people excited in front of the TV, waiting to buy when the stock market opens tomorrow. The stock market can be simply and rudely understood as drumming and spreading flowers. It is very simple. Before each company goes public, it will make a valuation of the company. For example, your company is worth 1,000 yuan, divided into 1,000 shares. The price is $1, and 500 shares are taken out as outstanding shares. You buy 10 copies for $10. The next day, the company has made a major breakthrough in research and development. The company is valuable, so people think it is worth $2,000, so your $10 becomes $210. Many people think that this company will have new research and development in the future. If you want to buy stock, you just want to sell it, you sell it, others buy it, and you make money. This is the easiest, and the other is institutional hype. For example, this company is worth 1,000 yuan, but a financial company thinks it is worth 10,000 yuan, if his family buys it. Can't find anyone to take over. Therefore, he can find a few more companies and discuss it in private. He buys first, then as the capital pool accumulates more, the stock rises, and then sells at a high price, and the second company enters the market to take over the offer. The price was fired even higher, and after the second one sold part of it, the third one entered the market. This kind of stock has been deviated from the actual value of the company. It is like a bottle of Laoganma, which is worth 5 yuan. The first person said that I paid 6 yuan and sold it for 7 yuan. The second person said that I was 7 yuan. I bought it with money, it was worth $10, and for $10 it was sold to a third house. The stock is going up in a whizzing way. Ordinary people, Small institutions, etc. do not know the inside story. When they see that they can make several times of money in a few days, they rush in with the money. Or, someone knows the tricks here, and still wants to go in and make a fortune. These companies will always keep an eye on the stock. When it is hot, this stock has already had a lot of inflows except their home. They will start to sell, and they will sell the stock while shouting that it is only a temporary adjustment. The labor pains will definitely skyrocket tomorrow, and everyone will buy the dips. As a result, many people copied the bottom and copied it to the palace of the king of hell, because there was no bottom. Chen's capital's stock plummeted because of Lu Feng's words. Now, there are two options in front of Mr. Chen. One is to ignore it and let the market trade. There may be a large amount of capital flight, and the stock will fall in panic. In this case, Lu Feng would buy in large quantities, hold shares at a low price, and the cost of controlling Chen's capital would be lower. Another option is that Mr. Chen protects the market to prevent being controlled at a low price. She will stretch the stock through some financial companies. She knows that Lu Feng holds the stock, so the value of the stock will be pulled up to a higher position, preventing Lu Feng from being held. Buy cheap. At this time, Lu Feng will short Chen's capital and sell high and low through the securities company, because Lu Feng knows that Mr. Chen will not be able to hold the market for a long time. As soon as Mr. Feng cuts off her network, as soon as the funds are withdrawn, the stock price will rise. Immediately cut in half. The situation has been laid out. Lu Feng is not panic at all, the rest is to see how President Chen struggles. Su Yorong finished the meal with a hint of red on her face. She looked at the time on the wall. It was already past 9 o'clock in the evening, and the sound of a car rang outside the door. Su Yorong stood up and walked out. President Chen got out of the car, looking a little tired. "Are you tired? Have you eaten?" "I've prepared the meal." Su Yorong lowered her eyebrows and took the slippers, squatting on the ground to change her shoes. Mr. Chen sat on the sofa and raised his feet, and said, "You don't have to do this. After I came back, I reflected on myself. It's my fault. It's all because of me. I'm afraid that you will drive me away." Su Yorong raised her head and her eyes turned red, and said, "I just want to serve you. By your side." President Chen reached out and touched her head, and raised her chin with his fingers. This woman is really lovable, and she can always hold a person's mind very well. It's okay to say that it has something to do with you. In fact, it has nothing to do with you. It's like when Wu Sangui entered the customs, didn't he also use the banner of Chen Yuan Yuan? President Chen laughed, and glanced at her collar. He smiled and said, "You are also Yuan Yuan. As long as I can stay by your side, anything is fine." Su Yorong changed her shoes. She was as docile as an inoffensive kitten. "Then have 2 bites." President Chen stood up and walked towards the dining table. "Is there any problem with the company?" "He is a very capable man. In just a few years, he built a business empire from scratch." Su Yorong worried. "Where is this?" "He is a dragon in the mainland, and he is a worm at most." President Chen said proudly, "As long as I am willing, I can gather tens of billions of funds and build a great wall in a short period of time. 3 melons and 2 dates, what are you going to fight with me?" Tens of billions. Su Yorong had seen the world, but such a large pool of funds in a short period of time still surprised her. Tens of billions is normal. For a large financial company, it is easy to mobilize 18 billion of funds. These funds are not ours, but all of our customers. Mr. Chen praised the meal in front of him. "I didn't see you cooking so well. Mr. Chen, I also came from a poor family. I started helping the family cook when I was in my teens. If you like it, I will cook it for you every day." Su Yorong put a bowl of rice in front of Mr. Chen, testing it out. Asked, "So, he has no chance of winning?" "Odds of winning," President Chen laughed and said, "he just hit the stone with an egg. If it's really that easy, Don't open my company, don't worry. That's good. Su Yorong showed a smile and sat next to President Chen to serve her dishes. That night, the financial industry's discussion of Lu Feng reached its peak again. It was discussed at various banquets and dinners, especially men, who were more envious of Lu Feng. Su Yorong is a stunner. President Chen was also a beauty when he was young. Her daughter is definitely not bad. As for President Chen, forget it. Tang Zongren was sitting at a table with a glass of wine, and there were several girls sitting opposite, all daughters of local financial bigwigs. The richest man in the mainland seems to be quite handsome. There are so many women robbing him, how can he not be handsome, and he is still young. I noticed him last year, and he is less than 30 years old. How big is it? It should be 26-7. So young, younger than me. If he swallows Chen's capital, he will be the only one in the world at his age. Tang Zongren has been sitting here for a few minutes. Except for Lu Feng, who didn't come to this venue today, all he heard was Lu Feng, either gossip or finance. He found a few girls to sit and were still talking about Lu Feng. Appearance and age. This made him extremely unhappy. If Chen's capital was so easy to swallow, it would have been swallowed long ago. Tang Zongren took a sip of red wine and said with disdain, the total market value of Chen's capital group should be around 17 billion yuan, in Hong Kong. In the local financial industry, it can also be ranked in the top 10, there are more than 30 board members, and President Chen holds less than 10% of the shares. What will he take? People are also very rich, the richest man in mainland China. A girl was dissatisfied with Tang Zongren's way of speaking. Damn the richest man, a piece of trash who almost went bankrupt last year. He's swindling and cheating here. I think he's been poor and crazy, and he came here to make trouble. Tang Zongren drank the red wine and said, I don't like this kind of trash, let alone President Chen. Is it because you scolded people so viciously because you robbed your woman last year? Another girl sneered. You said he was a lecher, so what are you? Several girls covered their mouths and laughed. Tang Zongren's face changed greatly, he slapped the table with his hand, and scolded, it's only difficult for women and villains to support them. Who are you scolding? A girl is upset, everyone is in the same circle, who doesn't know whose details? Tang Zongren ignored him and walked to the side with big strides. His hatred for Lu Feng became even more intense. If President Chen wanted Lu Feng to go bankrupt, he would be happy to donate a sum of money to make him even more miserable. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 561. Hong Kong's financial world has always been undercurrent, and with Lu Feng's mess, many people are willing to push Lu Feng to the table, and do not want some attention to focus on them. Overnight, the matter between Lu Feng and Chen's capital has been boiling in the industry. The major media began to scramble to report this matter to an unprecedented height. The next morning, as soon as the Hong Kong stock market opened, Chen's capital fell sharply again. Mr. Chen couldn't sit still. In the morning, he contacted major financial companies, securities companies, and funds. The two sides agreed on a verbal agreement. In the next month, they can mobilize more than 15 billion funds for her at any time. Played. At 10 o'clock in the morning, people in the stock exchange stared at the market and saw that Chen's capital fell again, sighing, and some even yelled on the spot. Yesterday's market was so good, but it still fell. Today, a large amount of funds have been redeemed. Chen's capital is obviously in trouble. Let's sell it. A man in his 40s was very helpless. Shit, now is a good time to buy the dips. That Lu Feng heard that he is a second rate from the mainland. Another young man disagreed. So many financial companies supported yesterday, why did it still fall? I tell you, don't panic, I will continue to buy. I don't believe that a mainland boy can mess up the Hong Kong stock market. A mere mainland rotten boy dares to provoke President Chen here? Believe it or not, he will be dead on the street in a few days. Yesterday's bottom hunting crowd scolded, wishing to slash Lu Feng twice to relieve their hatred. In the trading floor, the loudspeaker rang. Chen's Capital issued an announcement on the further decline of the stock. The company's operation is in good condition. It will speed up the release of the company's financial report in the near future. Legal measures will be taken. The board of directors has reached verbal agreements with more than a dozen financial institutions such as Beilihao Financial Group, Emperor Financial, Fanged Securities, Sun Hongkai, and Tianxin Consortium. The funds that can be mobilized in the next month are not less than 15 billion. I hope that the market will be calm and don't listen to rumors and rumors. The party that declares is the board of directors of Chen's Capital. As soon as the news came out, the whole audience went into a frenzy, and the faces of the people who had cursed Lu Feng just now showed smiles. I just said, what kind of storm can a yellow-haired child bring up? People drop 15 billion yuan, what does he do with it? Buying at the bottom must buy the bottom, and the price of the stock is about to rise. The beetle is just shaking the tree. Such a big financial company can't collapse in a day. By relying on the network of others, it can raise more funds to fight against it in a short period of time. What is finance? Money is about who has more money. Lu Feng, this mainland boy has hair, does he have hair? Ha ha ha, I guess it hasn't grown out yet. The announcement was like a shot in the arm for the stock, which then rose. Around noon, Lu Feng sat in the hotel and flipped through today's newspapers. Many people understood the situation this morning. Lu Feng alone, facing a large conglomerate like Chen's Capital, was as powerless as hitting a stone with an egg. At most, the stock of Chen's Capital will be shaken, and there is no other way to do it. As the saying goes, there are many icing on the cake, and few people who help in the snow. Some small companies have begun to support Chen's Capital, hoping to gain some attention, and at the same time scolding Lu Feng. Tang Zongren has been paying attention to the development of this matter. When he saw that it had developed to this point today, he put down the newspaper and snorted softly, "It's just a clown jumping on the beam." Tang Zongren felt that this was an opportunity. Mr. Chen was very imposing. He took the opportunity to help, not only to make a good impression, but also to make a small profit. The most important thing is that it is very important to be able to discuss Lu Feng. Tang Zongren's hatred for Lu Feng was that he was beating this man in his dreams. In his heart, he was such a scoundrel and trash, and he just couldn't do anything about him. The key is that he can't get used to Lu Feng's arrogant appearance. He wants to make Lu Feng feel pain and make him regret, knowing that there are some people in this world that he can't afford to offend. The thought of Lu Feng burst into tears, knelt on the ground and said sadly that I was wrong, I apologize to you, and apologize for my recklessness. Oops, that feeling. Tang Zongren felt comfortable from the toenails to the hair, and he felt that Lu Feng was not of the same class as him. Such people should behave themselves when they saw him, and lowered their eyebrows. Action is worse than heartbeat. Tang Zongren walked to the door of his father's office and knocked on the door. "Come in," a heavy male voice sounded from the room. Tang Zongren pushed open the door and walked in, saying, "Dad, have you read about Chen's Capital? How many times have I told you that you have to take a position in the company, understand?" Mr. Tang raised his head and looked at his son very dissatisfied. Other rich sons have already started their careers in their 20s, but this one in his own family is in his 30s. "Chairman, I just think that Chen's Capital is a good opportunity." Tang Zongren sat down and said. "What good opportunity?" Mr. Tang put down the pen in his hand, looked at his son and said, "What do you think? Tell me." "Chen's Capital is relatively turbulent now. Although we are not a financial company, we can show our solidarity. We can also call President Chen and say how much financial help we can provide. First, we will make a good impression, and then we will walk with President Chen more." there is a bit of inside information about the operation of Chen's Capital's company, and it will naturally be able to make a lot of sweetness in the stock market at that time. In this way, we will have a good relationship with Chen's Capital, and maybe we can make some money. Tang Zongren was very happy when he saw his old father's face gradually showing a smile. Mr. Tang sighed lightly. His son finally thought about making money. In fact, there is not much room for manipulating this matter. Chen's Capital has stabilized the situation. It's rare that my son has an idea, how can he not support it? I'll leave this to you, Zongren. It's never too late for a man to be ambitious. Mr. Tang stood up and patted Tang Zongren's shoulder with emotion. A person's growth is instantaneous, Dad. Hope you really grow up. Tang Zongren was praised, laughed, and moved. Dad, if I don't say it, it's already a blockbuster, you can watch it? After this incident, Tang Zongren did tell him, and it was a blockbuster. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng rested for a while after eating, and there were more calls to him, not only reporters from major media, but also banquet invitations from many financial companies. Lu Feng was so annoyed by the harassment that the phone rang again. He picked up the phone and said dissatisfiedly, "Who is it? Are you going to sleep?" "Mr. Lu, hello, we are from Wangxing Fund, are you interested in being a fund manager? We can give you a guaranteed minimum salary, and you can open your salary within 5 million a year, and there are also management dividends. Think about it, I am also a mainlander." "Yes, our hometown. I don't know how to manage funds," Lu Feng said angrily. "Don't call me, okay? You don't need to know, you can just put a name on it when the time comes. Your ability to disrupt the market is too strong. They all say that you are a Hong Kong stock stirrer. Chen's Capital is such a strong stock, it will make you lose 10. 6 o'clock, although the words are not very pleasant, but this is indeed a skill. As long as you can come, we'll be dead if we aim at one stock. With your nonsense ability, isn't it a matter of minutes to make money?" Annoyed, Lu Feng sat up and said, "Where are you?" "I'm in the company, do you want to come over for an interview?" "Yes, you go downstairs and wait for me by the side of the road. Bring a few more people, and I will bring some people too," Lu Feng said angrily. "Mr. Lu, what are you doing, fighting with me?" The other side laughed and said, "If you don't want to be a fund manager, are you free that night? We held a banquet." Lu Feng didn't want to listen anymore, so he hung up the phone. The phone kept coming in. Lu Feng walked out of the room and called Feng Xiao from the phone in the lobby. "Hey, Xiao, has the money arrived?" Lu Feng asked bluntly. "Brother Feng, I have already beaten 40 million people. I feel that the back is not enough. A few boys were beaten by his father. It was those who were underage that day. I heard that the spanking was swollen." Feng Xiao talking about it makes me happy. 40 million is about the same. You can transfer it to my account of Xiangjiang. Lu Feng thought about it. Tomorrow is Saturday, and the financial banquet hosted by Sun Hongkai is about to start. Is it appropriate for me to go to the banquet? I'll ask you later. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng went back to the room and felt that he should attend some banquets, so he continued to provoke this matter. President Chen called for 15 billion yuan. She had to find a way to spend the money, at least first. Throw away the money in your hand. Feng Xiao talked to his father. Mr. Feng sat there for a while and said, "Tell him not to attend this week's, and let him attend more other banquets. Next week's financial banquet must come." In the afternoon, the shipbuilding group issued an announcement, expressing its full support for Chen's Capital, and scolded Lu Feng to get him out of Hong Kong. As soon as this announcement came out, many people were confused. The shipping industry group has established a firm foothold and has made profits for several consecutive years. Moreover, the shipping industry group is a heavy asset, and its main business with financial cooperation is the insurance industry, which is completely irrelevant. By the way, I haven't heard that they are short of money. President Chen is like a peerless master in the arena. He was attacked by a night thief like Lu Feng, and he was full of condemnation in the face of Lu Feng. When the Hong Kong stock market closed, Chen's capital rose 4 points, and the stock is expected to return to normal at the opening of next week. President Chen was in a good mood, as if Lu Feng's attack was like a tickling for her. She only needed to make a few phone calls to solve it all. When she got home, Su Yurong prepared the meal and was still so obedient. President Chen, how are things? Su Yurong probed. The little things have been resolved. Mr. Chen looked very bold, sat down and said, it's not my turn to use relationships at all. How much energy can he have as an outsider? When Su Yurong heard this, her heart skipped a beat, and she was secretly annoyed. Tonight, she would quietly call Lu Feng and ask him what was going on. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 562. There was a lot of disturbance from the outside world. Lu Feng didn't leave the hotel all day. He called Zhang Xiaoyan in the afternoon. Aunt Lu and his mother and daughter were with him at home, so it wasn't boring. Lu Feng's arrangement for tomorrow is relatively tight. During the day, he will be interviewed and continue to ignite the topic. In the evening, there will be a banquet. If he wants to continue to pull down the stock of Chen Capital, he needs to sell a lot. At 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, the phone rang, and Lu Feng picked up the phone and said, which one? It's me. Su Yurong on the other end of the phone sounded a little displeased, and whispered, didn't you say it would be done soon? Why did the stock price stabilize? It's only temporary, this matter needs to be taken slowly, Lu Feng said, looking out the window. If you can't make it in 2 months, I'll be completely finished. Don't take it slow. I cook and serve her at home every day. I've had enough. You give me the money and I'll buy it at a low price. Buy stocks, go to the bank for mortgage loans. Su Yurong's voice was a little anxious. She didn't want to wait any longer. In such days, every second was a torment. Then what? After you buy a lot, the stock price stretches. What should you do? We are all small people. I know you are not feeling well these days, but we need to wait. What are we? Meet, Lu Feng said to the phone, for a while. If you have any news, let me know in time. Tell me how long it will take. Su Yurong grabbed her hair with her hands, but the moment she climbed up from the sea, she was under pressure that ordinary women couldn't bear. Now she is close to collapse. 1 month at most, Lu Feng said. On the other end of the phone, Su Yurong said yes and hung up. Lu Feng also saw the announcement issued by the shipping industry group in the afternoon, and he knew that Tang Zongren did it without asking. Lu Feng didn't care either. He had already trapped Mr. Chen as a wolf, and did he still care if there was an extra sheep inside? At noon the next day, Lu Feng was interviewed by reporters again. In the hotel's living room, Lu Feng was standing on the red carpet. Opposite people with long guns and short guns stood 20 or 30 people. On the speaking table in front of him was a bouquet of flowers and a large stack of microphones. Mr. Lu, hello, I would like to ask, how did you know that there was a problem with the operation of Chen's capital? She told me personally that because of the failure of the investment, she was afraid that the shareholders would be held accountable. She wanted to make an empty account for my company. I did not agree. The loss should be between 3 billion and 5 billion, Lu Feng said very firmly. Chen's capital has already called the police and said they want to arrest you. Are you afraid? Lu Feng laughed and said, there are laws here, and I have no power locally, but I want to fight this capital group to the end, and bring my innocence to the world. She not only disgusts me, but also chases after her own daughter. The same man. And rob my woman, I can't bear it. I want to ask, is Su Yurong your wife? It is said that your wife is not her. Another reporter apparently found information on the mainland. My wife is not her, but she is my woman. Although Lu Feng was unreasonable, he was very angry. Then President Chen's daughter is pursuing you. What's her name? Where did you meet? A man said with a microphone. Now the financial community generally believes that you are emptying Chen's capital stock and want to take this opportunity to make money. That's why I made up these words. Her name is Chen Tianjia. As for which man Mr. Chen gave birth to, I don't know. You talk so much, you just want to say that what I said is all lies. Then you go ask Mr. Chen, who is she with? A man gave birth to such a daughter. Do you want to see if she will smoke you? Lu Feng glanced at him and said, next question. At present, Chen's capital stock has rebounded, and Chen's capital has explained to the outside world that you are buying a lot and trying to hold a controlling stake. This morning, a large number of financial companies have once again expressed their position. What confidence or capital do you have to fight against? I'm in good spirits. The reporters interviewed a variety of questions. One reporter even threw his shoes on the spot and scolded Lu Feng, and told him to get out. The questions Lu Feng answered also revolved around some unverifiable black material. With the news broadcast on the TV station, the popularity of this incident increased again. The police also publicly stated that they had started the case. Mr. Chen was so excited that he couldn't even eat. In her eyes, Lu Feng was just a toad, with little attacking power, but he was shy. President Chen picked up the phone and called the police station, shouting, "What are you doing? Why haven't you arrested people yet? Mr. Chen, don't be angry, this case is still on file, and he is a mainlander with a sensitive identity. As soon as the case is filed and there is evidence, we will immediately arrest the person. I still need evidence. Isn't what he said on TV evidence? People must be arrested tonight." Mr. Chen was already feeling out of control. Lu Feng's phone number was exposed by some unscrupulous media, but someone maliciously harassed him and called and scolded people, but Lu Feng didn't answer and simply changed rooms. In the evening, a special banquet is being prepared. The reason is special because Lu Feng is coming. There are a lot of people who like him recently because they made money from bargain hunting, but there are more people who hate him because more people lost money, and partly because of his identity. Originally, the banquet for 100 or so people was held indoors, but it has expanded to more than 300 people. The room could not fit, so it had to be held on the lawn. Tang Zongren also came to hear the wind, and now Lu Feng is definitely a rat crossing the street in Xiangjiang. The lights were already on the lawn, and there were dozens of people on the scene. Everyone was smiling when they met, and the topics of conversation were nothing more than recent events. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Tang Zongren walked into the venue in a blue suit and glanced around to see if there were any beautiful women, but unfortunately there was none, and Lu Feng was not found. With a few polite words to a few elderly bosses, he walked aside and stopped talking. There were more and more people at the scene, and it started to become noisy. At 7:30, Lu Feng took a taxi to the back door of the hotel, went inside, and walked inside along the path. Seeing that the lawn was already crowded with people, a man in his 40s greeted him and said, "Lu Feng. It's me." With a bit of playfulness in his eyes, he said with a half smile, "I am the organizer of this banquet and the general manager of Tianyuan Securities. I have to say that Lu is always young and courageous, so I came alone. It's not Longton Tiger's Den, what are you afraid of?" "Ha ha ha ha," he laughed and said with a pleased gesture, "Please." Lu Feng walked inside, he turned his head and said to the etiquette, "Tell everyone, Lu Feng is here." As soon as Lu Feng walked in, a girl took the microphone and said, "Everyone, be quiet. The most important person tonight, Mr. Lu Feng, has arrived. Welcome everyone. There was no applause at all, and their eyes searched everywhere, and after a few minutes, they all landed on Lu Feng. He has seen this kind of scene a lot, and he is not afraid at all. He stares at everyone, and walks inside. There are constant mutterings at the scene, and several of them have bad eyes. Lu Feng, you still dare to come out and jump around? You come here, what else do you have besides nonsense every day, made me lose millions? That's your problem, what's up with me? Lu Feng said to him, isn't this banquet today about investment? We invested in Chen's capital, you are here to disrupt the situation, who are you not looking for? Another elderly man shouted with his finger. Lu Feng, if you don't lose money today, don't want to leave. That's right. I don't have any money, so I just come here to eat and drink, so I pay a lot of money. It's useless to ask me. I recommend you to go to the rooftop. It's 100 times over, Lu Feng said nonchalantly. You're still so arrogant? If it weren't for your nonsense, would we be able to pay so much? A middle-aged man was already furious. He attributed all the losses to Lu Feng, and rushed over to grab his clothes with his hands. Tang Zongren stood behind the crowd on the first floor, saw this scene, and shouted, beat him. Let go, or don't blame me for being rude. Don't think I won't dare to beat you when you're older. Lu Feng looked at the other party coldly and said, I've cleaned up those older than you. You, a mainland boy, try hitting me, Lu Feng said, and when he raised his fist, he smashed it in the face of Lu Feng, and 6 or 7 people rushed up. They are still quite old, and they look like they are in their 50s or 60s. Lu Feng was punched, and the scene was full of exclamations. I didn't expect that tonight's banquet would be such a way to start. Lu Feng felt a little confused, grabbed the opponent's hand and pulled it away. He was already old, how could he be the opponent of this young and middle-aged Lu Feng? Lu Feng stretched out his hand and grabbed the other's thinning hair, and smashed it with one punch. 4 or 5 old men behind him kicked him in the back. The old guy who was punched by Lu Feng lay directly on the lawn. Even the older ones didn't dare to look at the scene. Lu Feng turned his head and stared at the remaining old men. He fell directly to the ground, and then kicked straight in the face with his leather shoes. Hey, you lost your mother, Lu Feng scolded the old men, hit me? You've got the wrong person. 3 police cars parked at the back door of the hotel. 6 police officers got out of the car, showed their credentials, entered the back door, and went straight to the banquet scene. The case of Lu Feng slandering President Chen has been established, and they are coming non-stop now. Arrests. Feng's family, Mr. Feng and Feng Xiao ate without saying a word. The table was a little quiet. Zhen Kun walked in hurriedly and said in a low voice, Mr. Chen's case against Lu Feng has been closed. I heard that the arrest has already been made. Already? Call the police station and tell them that we don't support or like this. Also, if Mr. Chen asks, they dare to spit out half a word. Don't blame me for being rude about votes and funds next year, Mr. Feng Shen said. Zhen Kun nodded and walked out again. He was also sighing inwardly, the Battle of Immortals had just begun. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 563. The policeman here had just entered the door, and a police car came galloping at the rear with its lights flashing. He hurriedly got out of the police car. A man in his 40s asked, did a few police officers go in just now? The security guard rolled his eyes and said helplessly, Sir, can't you see the police car next to you? Only then did the man see the police car parked next to him, and hurried inside. Lu Feng was really brave when it came to fighting. The 6 old men all lay down in less than 5 minutes. When the others saw that he really dared to kill him, they didn't dare to step forward for a while. Let's go, the police investigate the case. A group of policemen rushed in rampantly. Which one is Lu Feng? A man in his 30s stood at the scene and asked, I want to ask if there is a person from the mainland, called Lu Feng, who slandered Chen's capital. A group of people standing outside landed on Feng with their fingers in unison. You are Lu Feng, come with us. The three men came up with very bad expressions. They reached out and grabbed Lu Feng's shoulders and surrounded them. The leading man smiled at everyone. Misters, I really disturbed your yaxing. This person is a wanted criminal in this bureau. Now he will bring him back for questioning. Don't be nervous. He hit people, a weak voice came from under his feet. Only then did the police officer realize that there was someone under his feet, and when he looked down, he turned pale in shock, and hurriedly bent down to help him, and said with concern, Mr. Lee, what's the matter with you? It was that bastard who hit me hard. He punched me on the head and greeted me. Now both eyes are dark. Mr. Lee stood up, still a little unsteady. There are other people who were beaten by him. This person is extremely arrogant. We must take care of him. Yes, not only will he be convicted of slandering President Chen, but also of beating our bosses. The bastard from the mainland, do you really think this is the place of the people? You are blind. Tang Zongren stood aside, clasping his arms in front of his chest and watching coldly. Lu Feng absolutely fell for this time, and President Chen used this kind of relationship. As long as he entered the police station, wouldn't he just let President Chen need? Even if he is not sentenced, he will never dare to talk nonsense after he comes out. Tang Zongren thought fiercely in his heart, it is best to give him a lifelong disability. When the police officer heard that Lu Feng, a foreigner, was so arrogant, he dared to beat Mr. Lee. He doesn't know the other bosses. This boss is the sponsor of the police station, and the relationship is extraordinary. Now that President Chen is putting pressure on him, the bosses of President Lee and the others want Lu Feng to die immediately. He doesn't have to die, it's definitely better to die. Brand me, the police officer shouted loudly, walked up to Lu Feng, stared at him and said, do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, I hope you will enforce the law fairly, Lu Feng said to him. Don't worry, I have no other advantages, he said with a smile, it's the public. A kind of boss next to him kept shouting hello, and someone with good deeds stepped forward and praised, you are a good official who acts for the democracy, we need you like this. Yes, appear when we need it most, so that we can feel safe, the people need you. Lu Feng wanted to laugh when he heard this. Is there a common man here? Which ordinary people in suits and leather shoes, eat a high-end banquet, and talk about hundreds of millions of funds. The man looked at Lu Feng with a high-spirited look, but he was also magnanimous when he saw Lu Feng, and asked in a low voice, I heard that you are very rich in the mainland, I will give you a chance to make a phone call in a moment, and let someone prepare a financial bail. Then I have to thank you, Lu Feng snorted coldly. Detain me. There were continuous cheers and applause at the scene. Once Lu Feng entered, this short-lived farce would definitely come to an end, and the stock of Chen Capital would definitely rise when the market opened on Monday. Lu Feng was dragged forward by the arms of the two people behind him. Before he left the door of the banquet hall, a middle-aged man rushed in. Seeing this, the leading man immediately stood at attention, saluted, and asked, Director, why are you here? I asked you to arrest Lu Feng, did you arrest him? The director asked with concern. Report, it has been captured, the person is here. The two men detained Lu Feng and took a step forward. When the director saw that Lu Feng was being detained in such an embarrassing manner, the whole person was startled. The people next to Mr. Lee saw that the director had come in person, and they were naturally proud. The director ran out in person, which itself represented this kind of power. Director Ren, I didn't expect you to come too. I don't have much of a problem. I'm fine. Mr. Lee stepped forward and said politely, have tea another day. For such criminals, we must be severely punished. Renju looked at Mr. Li. Now a group of big capitalists are fighting, what is he? It has nothing to do with you. Renju turned his head and scolded his subordinates, Who asked you to arrest Mr. Liu? Don't you know he is a distinguished guest from the mainland? That's how you treat guests. Expensive, honorable guest. The police officers who arrested Lu Feng were dumbfounded. How could this become an honored guest? Ren Bureau, didn't you mean to file a defamation case against President Chen? You signed it? What word did I sign? Renju glared at him and said, what are you waiting for? Do you want to do it? If you don't want to do it, get out of here. Everyone hurried to handcuff Lu Feng loose, and everyone present was dumbfounded. What's the situation? This group of people knows the rules of the game very well. If it weren't for the pressure from President Chen, this case would not have been so fanciful, at most it was a civil case. But he was about to be caught, but he let it go. It can only be said that Lu Feng, a person from the mainland, has enough energy to cover President Chen, so this situation occurs. Lu Feng's handcuffs were loosened, his wrists were a little red, he moved his hand, looked at the director in front of him, and said, don't make trouble like this in the future, okay? It's our fault, I'm here to apologize to you. Mr. Li's eyes widened. The direction of the development of things was completely different from what he expected. He was very anxious. Renju apologized to Lu Feng, slapped each of the people under his hand, and shouted, in the future, let your eyes shine brightly, and you should act smarter, you know. Mr. Li couldn't bear it anymore, stepped forward and said, I don't care about Mr. Chen's case, but he beat up a few of us, what's the matter? You need to report this matter. Ren Bureau was so annoyed that there was a dinosaur fight over there, who would have the heart to take care of your wild dog? Okay, it doesn't matter, right? Mr. Li's face turned blue with anger, and Lu Feng shouted with his finger, then I will solve it myself, and don't regret it then. Seeing that he still dared to be arrogant, Lu Feng scolded him and slapped him with a slap in the face. This old man was more resistant to beatings than the others, who were lying on the grass very peacefully. Mr. Li was stunned by the slap in the face, and the surroundings were full of exclamations. You see, he hit me. Mr. Li covered his face with his hands and reported to Bureau Ren. Renju had a serious face, looked at Lu Feng, raised his hand and shouted, withdraw. A group of people turned their heads and left without hesitation, seeing Mr. Li foolishly on the spot. Mr. Li looked at Lu Feng and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, and said tremblingly, I'm sorry, I'm a little dizzy. I'll lie down first, please call an ambulance for us. Who's the mainland boy? Lu Feng looked at him and smiled, and punched him down. There was a burst of exclamations from the crowd, and Mr. Li fell to the ground in response. Lu Feng was not caught, which in itself represented a kind of power. Those present understood one thing, that is, the business of Chen's capital is not over. Seeing the people lying under his feet, Lu Feng moved his fingers and shouted at the crowd, who else wants to fight? Don't look for those rotten boys. Those who can attend this kind of banquet are all elderly, and the youngest is in his 40s. Lu Feng is like a rogue who has entered a nursing home and is known as the invincible player under the age of 50. Then let me say a few words. Chen's capital is rich and unkind, we should fight it together. How can we help Joe to abuse for just a few paper tickets? President Chen, you know better than me, destroying other people's families, being a junior, this is immoral. Chen's capital manipulates the funds of other companies, through borrowing, bridging, financing, first making promises, and then suddenly tightening funds, forcing those companies to be bought at a low price, and in the early days, they joined several of their own concubines to raise the stock market, and harvest ordinary people. This is a shameless act. To the men around her, she pulls to the bed when it's useful, and kicks it away when she doesn't. It's like a tool to her children, it's used to tie up men, it's not benevolent. A company that is dishonest and shameless, why do you want to maintain it? Lu Feng looked at everyone, and there was no wavering in their eyes. To this day, benevolence, righteousness, integrity, and shame have basically been lost. Everyone doesn't care about this. What they care about is whether they can increase their wealth again, and whether they can consolidate their social status and power. Money can be made in any direction. Why do you want to make such money? I can say a word to everyone here: Chen's capital stock will plummet. Isn't she rich? Although it is repurchased, it is not a bargain hunter now. The best time, Lu Feng said loudly. This sentence made the scene agitated, and the abuse just now had no sense to them, but this sentence was definitely what they said they were concerned about. Will Chen capital stock plummet? Don't doubt what I said. If you don't believe it, you can hold it. If it doesn't plummet by more than 40%, I threw myself into the river and died. Since I came to take revenge, I must be fully prepared. Lu Feng looked at them with confidence. Some people present panicked. If Lu Feng said this when he first came in, they would definitely not believe it, but the operation of the police made them believe a little. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 564. Lu Feng knew that in order to have a devastating effect on Chen's capital stock, it was impossible to rely on an individual or a company alone, and a panic retreat was required. Some of the people present were still upset, but they didn't dare to scold them. If you dared to scold others, they would dare to beat you up. It was useless to call the police, so I asked some scumbags to clean him up. It was estimated that when the scumbags arrived, I would be half dead by Lu Feng. There was a lot of harmony at the scene for a while. Tang Zongren didn't want to confront Lu Feng head-on, so he retreated to the back of the crowd with a glass of wine, murmuring in his heart, "Wait, see how long you can be arrogant, I will take it back with profit in the near future." Lu Feng carried the wine glass, and wherever he went, there was no one within 2 or 3 meters, and everyone watched him as if hiding from the god of plague. Lu Feng was calm, eating and drinking, walking around the scene alone, standing in a corner, and heard a few people chatting next to him. "Old Zhou, can you pick up a shipment from the mainland recently? What kind of goods? Is the profit high?" "It's a TV, and the profits are quite high. You can rent a boat with the shipping industry group and pull it there, and you can make a profit without losing money." "Have the mainland exported TVs?" Zhou asked with a frown. "Aren't you smuggling anything else?" "How is that possible? It's really a TV." "Which companies? The seller doesn't need me to look for it." "Which company can tell you? Anyway, the goods are ready to be shipped. The news there is that there are several buyers, but the amount they want is not large. It is best to find a few more buyers." "You are in the United States. Isn't there a brand? It's really impossible to buy it back, wear a dress, and then sell it to the mainland." Everyone burst into laughter. It seems that this is a conventional method. Lu Feng stood by and listened. The batch of goods they were discussing, if they guessed correctly, should be Viputa. Sure enough, these agents are not middlemen between buyers and sellers at all, but they are handed over in Xiangjiang, and they are separated in the middle layer. The more times you flip, the less guaranteed your money back. Just as Lu Feng was about to go over to chat a few words and ask about the doorway, before he could walk over, a middle-aged man came over with a wine glass in his hand, and said to Lu Feng, "Boss Lu, I heard that you are in the mainland. There's a lot of wind over there." "It's just normal, it's just that other people give face in the business field." Lu Feng looked at him and asked, "Is something wrong?" "I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the general manager of Blue Fox Finance. I'm not sure if you are the richest man in mainland China, but I do know that you are really good at building public opinion." He looked at Lu Feng with eyes full of interest. "Appreciate," those eyes seemed to say, "I need a shameless person like you. Our company has a financial advisor position. I don't know if Mr. Lu is interested or not. You don't need to go to work. Just hang up your name and I can offer you a monthly salary of 1 million yuan. The other party saw that Lu Feng was very confident. Even if Lu Feng was really the richest man in the mainland, he could not refuse such a condition. Lu Feng looked at him and smiled and refused. His trick was seen through at a glance. Money in this world is not so easy to earn. A few people over there, do you know them? Lu Feng pointed to a few people not far away and asked. I don't know, this is my business card. You can call me at any time. President Lu, I also think you are very interesting. I have no other ideas. This is still the condition. The other party raised his glass and turned his head. Gone. Lu Feng walked forward, stood beside a few people, and said, excuse me, you just said that a batch of TV sets will be released in the mainland area. Before Lu Feng could finish speaking, several people looked at him with disgust and walked away. This night, many people came to look for Lu Feng. They were all financial companies, and they were also small companies. The idea of these people was to use Lu Feng's recent popularity to fire up their company and take the opportunity to make a profit. There is a kind of idea of operating internet celebrities in later generations. Before 10 o'clock, Lu Feng left the venue. What he had to do had been completed, and he was going to go to another banquet tomorrow. In a society with developed media, this kind of use of personal remarks or attracting attention to public opinion is a very cheap way to sell products. This product may be an object or a person. It is one of the fastest marketing methods to first use the most eye-catching words to gain attention, and then make yourself a topical figure. When those companies found Lu Feng, they just wanted to use Lu Feng's popularity to increase exposure to their companies and take the opportunity to make a profit. As for whether they can get a high salary of 1 million, it is hard to say. If you can maintain your personal topic, then a person is a walking billboard, whether it is starting a company, endorsement, selling products, etc., all can be realized. Before 10 o'clock, Lu Feng had already returned to the hotel. After thinking about it, he still called Zhang Fengxia and told her about tonight's matter, so that she could pay more attention. How's your progress over there? How can I hear from Xiang Jiang's friends that you are now the cover of the Dragon Tiger News, and the pictures are indescribable? Zhang Fengxia's voice on the other end of the phone was full of surprise, and said, she said to mail me a copy and told me that this thing is more exciting than reading a novel. Lu Feng was speechless and said, why do you still have friends with Xiang Jiang? My classmate. Then did your classmate tell you that this Dragon Tiger newspaper is not suitable for children? Lu Feng asked. Huh? Zhang Fengxia's voice was full of disgust, and she said, why did you get on this kind of newspaper? It even included pictures. Lu Feng rubbed his face with his hands and said, that's someone else's picture, not mine. Things are going smoothly here. Don't inquire about things here, do you know? You're doing this over there, does Sister Xiao Yan know? Zhang Fengxia asked curiously. Go, don't tell her, the media in this kind of place is like this, and if other things are exposed after a while, people will forget about it. Besides, after finishing the matter later, find a few media to clarify. Can't you just clean it up? Lu Feng didn't want to talk to her about this, so he asked her about the company's situation, and asked her to clarify the labels of the goods exported to the outside world and produce them as soon as possible. Zhang Fengxia said that the contract has been signed. The first batch of goods is 30,000 TV sets. In addition to the production and supply of Viputa in the mainland, only 2 production lines can be freed up, and it will take more than a month to produce. Coupled with customs, approval, quality inspection reports, etc., when the payment is received, it is estimated that it will be the end of the year. The two chatted a lot, and whispered to 12 o'clock in the evening. When they were about to hang up the phone, Zhang Fengxia told Lu Feng, don't play too much, Shenzhen is so close, and if there is any news, it may be spread past. The impact is not very good. Lu Feng snorted twice and hung up the phone. He didn't wash up and fell asleep on the bed. President Chen rested early. She thought that the police station had taken action and everything was calm. Lu Feng, who came from a mainland, couldn't make any waves. In the early morning of the next day, the media was still the same as yesterday's news, but it was in the financial circles, especially Lu Feng's remarks. He was confident that Chen Capital's stock would drop by another 40%. When Mr. Chen arrived at the company, he was completely blinded after receiving a call. He picked up the phone on the table and called the public relations manager. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man walked in, looking a little flustered. "President Chen, are you looking for me?" The man didn't dare to look at President Chen at all. "Didn't you tell me yesterday that a case has been filed over there, so they will be arrested that night?" Mr. Chen clapped the table, stood up and shouted, "Why is he still at large? The police station did say they were arrested, but the Ren Bureau went to release the person again. After I received the news, I called him immediately, but they told me to believe in the rule of law, follow the process." "According to the process?" "What process?" President Chen grabbed the folder in front of him and smashed it, roaring hysterically, "Who? Thing, get the hell out of me." President Chen picked up the phone on the table and called Renju directly. "Morning, who is it?" The voice on the other end of the phone said, slightly relaxed. "I'm President Chen of Chen's Capital, and I just want to ask you something." "Who called you and asked you to let Lu Feng go?" President Chen asked straight to the point, as if he was talking to a police chief. More like talking to his subordinates. "No one, I also act according to the rules. Mr. Chen, you can't make me embarrassed. We are now very popular in the world, especially in terms of public security, whether it is foreigners, mainlanders, or locals, we must treat everyone equally. Don't tell me that bullshit. You're like a pug when you meet a foreigner. If you don't catch it today, next time you'll be able to sit in that position, I don't know." Just after Mr. Chen threatened, the phone was hung up. President Chen's face was ashen. She really felt that something was wrong this time, especially when the undercurrent was turbulent recently. She really couldn't figure out who it was. Mr. Chen sat there without saying a word. She always felt that there were a pair of eyes staring at her in the dark, which made her back shivering. Others were in the dark and she was in the light, so she was very passive. However, Lu Feng, a chess piece that has been launched, must be eliminated in the short term. As long as the market opens on Monday, Chen's Capital stock is slightly wrong, and a large number of funds will flee as if it were dilute. Although she has the ability to mobilize a lot of funds in a short period of time, she doesn't want to make such a big move. If there is a mobilization of funds to protect the disc, what will the board of directors think of her? The next time she is elected executive director, she may not be selected. "If you're courting death, don't blame me for being rude." Mr. Chen's eyes flashed fiercely, and he started to make phone calls. As a woman who has been struggling from the bottom, she has experienced many men and experienced more things, and she does not know any of the 3 religions and 9 streams. Arranging some people to kill Lu Feng was very simple. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 565. Many people in the local financial community are watching. If President Chen still can't handle Lu Feng at the opening on Monday, some big capital may be withdrawn. Just like an elephant stepping on an ant, if the elephant can't die, it means that the ant is by no means a simple ant. These people are smart, especially some large financial companies. They have been secretly asking about it for a long time, but they are very strict about this aspect of the news. Not many people know about Sun Hongkai or Jiafeng Electronics in this part of Hong Kong, but the matter of Star Media, which is a shareholder of President Du, is causing a lot of uproar. In addition, Mr. Du can introduce stars to the mainland for development and open up the market. Star Media has carried out a new round of financing. Mr. Du is also rising, and he is very popular with capital. In the eyes of local financial circles, Lu Feng is an amateur who came from the mainland and has no background in the local area. People in the financial circle are all elites. The more Lu Feng is like this, the more afraid they are. How deep and muddy the water is, no one knows. To the top of the head. Everyone is watching. Lu Feng woke up and took a shower. He continued to see reporters in the morning. He went to a banquet at noon. It was the same rhetoric from last night. He just wanted to let everyone know that he had made a very big decision. Chen's capital would not die. It's not over. At noon, Mr. Chen no longer wanted to stay in the company. The phone kept calling, and the members of the board of directors were also pressing. She was in an extremely bad mood. She can only hope that when the sun rises tomorrow, Lu Feng will no longer be able to open your mouth to stir up. At home, the TV was on, Su Yurong was sitting on the sofa, her mind was completely off the TV, and she sat there in a daze. When President Chen came back, seeing her absent-minded, he said, "What are you thinking?" Ah, Su Yurong turned around, shocked, and hurriedly stood up and said, "Mr. Chen, why are you back?" It's exhausting. President Chen put his handbag on the table, sat down and said, that Lu Feng was not caught, but started to make all kinds of trouble. Drink water. Su Yurong held a glass of water in front of President Chen, squatted beside her and pressed her legs, comforting, "Don't worry too much, I still know a little about him, this man. There is no power here, and there is not much wind and waves to turn over." Mr. Chen rubbed his temples, looking very distressed, and sighed, "I'm afraid there is someone behind this person. I can't find out who it is for now, but his pawn must be destroyed, or the company's stock will be lost. Open Monday, as long as there's been a panicky dip, it's really troublesome." Su Yurong was shocked when he heard this, and said gently, "It's not easy for you to get rid of him. With your power, you can let him see the sun tomorrow, and it won't cost you much money. Just a lousy gambler. I'm still afraid of making mistakes, so I still let professionals do professional things. Stop talking about this." Mr. Chen sat up straight, took a sip from the water glass, stood up and said, "I went back to the house to rest. You can get something light at night, and accompany me out for a walk after dinner." "Okay, I'm going to prepare and make some soup." Su Yurong hurriedly followed, and supported President Chen upstairs. "Just get some. You don't need to go out to buy food. I don't have much appetite. I can make whatever I have at home." "Okay." President Chen went upstairs and lay down, while Su Yurong went downstairs and started to clean up the house. Where can Mr. Chen sleep? She has more thoughts than anyone else. She picked up the phone on the bed and put it aside. All the phones in the house are one phone line. Can hear the conversation. After a while, President Chen stood up, quietly opened the door, and saw Su Yurong busy below. Everything was so calm and calm. During the whole afternoon, in addition to being busy, Su Yurong brought a glass of lemonade to President Chen and put it on the bedside, then watched TV for a while, and plunged into the kitchen. Su Yurong is too shrewd. When Boss Chen told her about this, she felt something was wrong. Boss Chen has always been wary of her, and she actually told her about such an important thing. This made Su Yurong nervous all afternoon. 2 times, he quietly saw Mr. Chen's bedroom door open a crack, and he understood everything in his heart. Dinner was also relatively simple. I fried 2 vegetables and boiled half a pot of porridge. After Mr. Chen went downstairs, he simply took 2 bites and put down his chopsticks. It could be seen that she really didn't have the heart to eat. She looked back and forth on Su Yurong, and said, "Come out with me for a walk and relax." Su Yorong hurriedly stood up to look for President Chen's sneakers. After making arrangements, he went out. The sun had just set, but the air was still hot, and more people came out to enjoy the cool on the street, making it seem a bit crowded. Let's go over there. President Chen pointed to a street with less traffic, and asked Su Yorong casually, you used to be a boss, and now you're cooking every day in addition to cleaning up the house. To tell you the truth, if it was me a few years ago, I would definitely not be reconciled. At that time, I was ambitious, but now I like this kind of life instead. Su Yorong walked slowly, the expression on her face was extraordinarily calm, as if her heart had no waves. People can only understand if they have experienced it. In fact, being a boss is very tired. At that time, I rushed to the wine bureau every day, and I drank and vomited. When I went out, I was surrounded by a lot of people, like a big sister. A lot of things, but I yearned for a peaceful day. Just like now, clean up the house, watch TV, and cook. In fact, cooking is very interesting. I have learned a lot of Hong Kong-style tea dishes from TV recently. Mr. Chen, I have a small request that I've always wanted to mention. Su Yorong looked at President Chen. Tell me, I'll listen. I want to raise a dog, can I? Su Yorong's eyes were a bit timid, as if he was afraid that President Chen would not agree. Mr. Chen laughed when he saw her. Isn't this the life that a little woman yearns for? The feeling that Su Yorong said was actually something she had many years ago. She also mentioned it to a man, but that man almost took everything from her. At this moment, Mr. Chen's heart was completely let go. The two had the same experience, many inner thoughts were the same, and some things could not deceive her. Okay, keep it, I'll buy one tomorrow. President Chen agreed. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Su Yorong became happy and gave Mr. Chen a kiss on the face. This move attracted a lot of people to look here. Some people have recognized the two, and they are pointing at them from a distance. Some people are snickering, and some people are disgusted. Let's go over there. Have you brought water? President Chen asked. I'll go and buy. Su Yorong arranged Mr. Chen to sit on a row of benches, turned around and glanced at a row of small shops on the opposite side. She quickly locked a small shop next to her. This shop was facing south. Mr. Chen's sitting position, just cannot see the store situation. He trotted all the way, and when he came out, he changed into thinner underwear. The support was not enough. Su Yorong felt that the trot came over and pulled a little bit of pain. Boss, here are 2 bottles of water. Su Yorong took out 2 business cards from his pocket, put them on the table and said, Boss, help me make a call to these 2 numbers and say that President Chen is looking for someone tonight. If you want to get rid of Lu Feng, this is the hotel's phone number. If you can't get through, just call this. Thank you. After she finished speaking, she put $100 on the table, turned around with 2 bottles of water, and the boss took a look at the money and didn't call. He could hear that there seemed to be something wrong. Wrong left directly, he would definitely not make this call. Su Yorong went back to the bench and unscrewed the water, handed it to President Chen to take a sip, took it again, and said, this piece is pretty good, let's go around here. There are a lot of people, so you can go back here when it's cool for a while, President Chen ordered. Su Yorong took President Chen around, looking at the shop owner from time to time. Seeing that she was always around, the boss had to pick up the phone and call. No one answered the phone call to the hotel, so they called the Feng family. Hello. Who is this? I was helping someone make a phone call. A woman asked me to tell you that President Chen wants to get rid of Lu Feng, the boss said weakly. That's all. Which woman? What's her name? What are the characteristics? The other end of the phone asked. Characteristics, the boss thought for a while and said, it's that big, right? Jenkin put down the phone in confusion. What's so big? He didn't think about it anymore. 99% of this was true. President Chen was already at his wit's end. Now it's reasonable to want to kill Lu Feng. Mr. Feng went to the company today and is not here now. He hurriedly called the company and the assistant said that Mr. Feng was in a meeting. There is something more urgent, please let me know. In the conference room, the core shareholders of Sun Hongkai were divided into two rows, with Mr. Feng sitting first, and Feng Xiao next to him. This was the first time he took his son to the board of directors. For major shareholders, this was a signal. The phone in the conference room rang. The conference assistant picked up the phone and said a few words. He walked up to Mr. Feng and said in a low voice, Mr. Jenkins said that he has something urgent to call you. Call home, Mr. Feng ordered. The phone was placed in front of the table. After connecting, Mr. Feng asked, what's the emergency? Mr. Feng, there is news that Mr. Chen has already found someone to kill Lu Feng. I didn't say the exact time, but it is estimated that tonight, she will shut up Lu Feng before the opening. Okay, I understand, you can arrange it, and I will have someone notify him after, Mr. Feng said. He hung up the phone, looked at Feng Xiao and said, go to your brother and say that he is not safe now, pay more attention. Brother, Feng Xiao was stunned for a moment. Both of his brothers were abroad. The next second he realized, he asked him to find brother Feng. He stood up and hurriedly said, I'll go now. President Feng, which son of your family is back? Someone asked curiously. It's not my two sons, it's a friend of Xiao's acquaintance. The children are playing around, Mr. Feng said with a slight smile. Let's continue talking. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 566. Feng Xiao drove straight to the hotel. When he arrived at the hotel, he found that Lu Feng was not there. After asking the front desk, he learned that Lu Feng was going to the Tianhai Hotel for a banquet. Go straight to Tianhai Hotel. The sun was setting, the sky was groggy, and the banquet had just started. Lu Feng naturally preached again, telling everyone present that the stock of Chen Capital would plummet when the market opened next week. He had this ability. Let's wait and see. Most of the people at the scene didn't want to talk to Lu Feng, but there are all kinds of people in the world. Qin Hui has 3 friends, and occasionally someone comes to talk to Lu Feng. A man in his 40s, wearing a small vest, blonde hair and blue eyes, with a beard, looked like a Western aristocrat. Holding a goblet in his hand, he walked in front of Lu Feng and said in pure Mandarin, Hello, Mr. Lu. Hello, Lu Feng glanced at him. My name is Mike, I'm from Xiangjiang. I have heard about President Lu. I have a friend, you must be familiar with it, he smiled slightly. Who? Lu Feng wondered. Zhuang Yuntian. Lu Feng remembered that the two of them were really similar, they were both half foreign devils. You haven't pitied him a lot. What is this called? Investing is a lonely thing. He needs to be a friend of time. He is just too impatient. He can endure loneliness before he can see prosperity, Lu Feng explained. Mike laughed. Lu Feng's ability to explain the slander in such a subtle way is a feat. You and Zhuang are always good friends, and I and Zhuang are also good friends. We are good friends now. Let's have a drink. Mike is very good at relationship, touched the glass, and drank half of it. Lu Feng also took a sip, wondering what this man wanted to find him. Mr. Lu, I'm actually very curious about you. I think someone like you should publish an autobiography, which will definitely sell well. Mike flattered Lu Feng inside and out. I'm a relatively low-key person. I don't care about my autobiography. When I'm old, I can write a memoir, but it's too early to say that. Let's get over the difficulties before me first, Lu Feng said with a bit of anguish. Mr. Lu said just now that he has the confidence to bring down Chen's capital. I'm just curious, where is the confidence? Mike thought about it for a moment and said, even if you want to make an idea on Chen's capital stock, you will need a huge amount of capital. You seem to be. Is there no channel to mobilize such a huge amount of money? Lu Feng laughed and came over to inquire about this. This is my business. If I say I have confidence, that is confidence, Lu Feng said with a smile. Mr. Lu, I know that you may need a lot of money in the short term. Let me introduce my identity again, Mike, the head of Tiger Fund Hong Kong branch. He handed over a business card and said, our company is very strong, and the adjustable funds are as high as 130 billion US dollars. Do you know Tiger Fund? Lu Feng took the business card and glanced at it, put it in his pocket. Who doesn't know about Tiger Fund? One of the craziest financial companies in the 1990s used high leverage for global harvesting, and Soros had to bow his head in front of them. Around 2000, high leverage followed a series of thunderstorms, and he stopped the limelight. You must know that many years later, this company and Soros first shorted the Thai baht and made huge profits, and then hit the Hong Kong dollar. This tiger is so fierce that many countries are afraid of it, and the real wealth can be rivaled. However, in the battle against the Hong Kong dollar, not only was Soros flattened, but the tiger finally met Wu Song and retreated. If necessary, I will contact you. Lu Feng took out a business card of his own and handed it over. This is my business card. I believe we will cooperate in the short term. Okay, Mike put it in his pocket, turned around politely, and walked away. He didn't quite understand why Lu Feng said there would be cooperation in the short term. Lu Feng poured himself some red wine and walked around the arena, when someone suddenly took a photo from behind. Lu Feng turned around and saw Feng Xiao's whole being stunned. After reacting, he hurriedly pulled it to the corner, glanced around, and found that no one was paying attention, so he whispered, "What are you doing here?" "My dad asked me to tell you that tonight is not peaceful. President Chen has already found someone to kill you," Feng Xiao said nervously. "Don't go out now, Uncle Kun has already made arrangements." Although Lu Feng thought of this step, he just didn't expect it to be so fast. It seems that President Chen also doesn't want to have too much financial transactions with other financial companies. She does get a lot of money temporarily, but she is not easy to explain to the board of directors, and she is easily questioned in the industry. It is only halfway through this year, and the business in the second half of the year will be in trouble. "How many people?" Lu Feng asked. "I don't know either. It's just that the owner of a small shop called and said that someone asked him to call him." "Brother Feng, did you set up a spy?" Feng Xiao asked curiously. "No, it's just some warm-hearted friends," Lu Feng said casually, thinking to himself, it was definitely Su Yorong. It seemed that things were about to break. Feng Xiao knew that this matter was not easy, but he did not expect that there would be spies. He listened to his father's meeting today, and some of the content of the conversation was also related to the current situation. In control of the situation. Don't let people see that we are together, so as not to cause unnecessary speculation. After Uncle Kun has arranged it, let's go. Lu Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, "Understand?" "Understood." After Lu Feng arranged Feng Xiao, he walked towards the window, stood by the window and looked downstairs. Not like a nice guy. In the current Xiangjiang, the chaos at the bottom is jaw-dropping. It can be said that there is no order and law. The police station fully serves the capital. The environment in the wealthy area is elegant and safer. Even a drunk man is lying on the ground in less than 10 minutes there is a police car. On the contrary, the people at the bottom live in a birdcage house of about 10 square meters, and the surrounding environment is harsh. As long as the case is not too bad, they will not care about it. The ordinary people at the bottom actually live outside the law. The streets, food stalls, entertainment venues, etc. are all managed by social people in a rude manner. Don't say that in the past, in fact, there are still many countries like this. The ordinary people at the bottom are a group of abandoned people, and they are simply and rudely ruled by gangs. Mr. Chen made a lot of money, which is enough to make these bastards die. The two streets next to the Tianhai Hotel are food stalls that sell some peeing beef balls, rice rolls, etc., and the street in front is an entertainment venue. The streets are extremely messy, the wires are entwined like spider webs, and under the various red cards are young people, little girls with dyed hair wearing suspenders standing at the door, smoking a cigarette, moving towards the street. People coming and going asked, "What are you playing?" Not far away is an ice room with chess and cards, cold drinks, etc. There are more than a dozen young people sitting at the door, some of them are shirtless, and there are hideous scars on their bodies. "Be tougher for a while, you know," a man in his 30s shouted at the young man. "I know, brother Ku. If you want to come out, you have to make a name for yourself. This kid is in the limelight now. If you kill him today, everyone else will have to call you big brother when they see you." A man threw the newspaper in front of him on the table above, there is a photo of Lu Feng on it. "Brother, will you go to jail? Are you a big jerk? Are you afraid of going to jail when you come out? Let me tell you, the brothers in the gang are all in the fire, and you will be released after a phone call." 4 or 5 people encouraged a few hairy boys. They have become human beings. When it comes to fighting and killing, step back and stand forward when counting money. What happened to the jail time? The place where I live in prison is more spacious than the house I rented. Downstairs of the Tianhai Hotel, 5 cars parked at the door. They took a taxi and walked down to approach people number 20. These people didn't seem to be offended, and their eyes were full of suffocation. People who came out of the hotel saw it. "Walk around to the side." Feng Xiao received a call, saying that the person had arrived and evacuated as soon as possible. After hanging up, he stood up and walked towards the main venue of the banquet. Lu Feng had been standing on the edge of the field for a long time, and when he saw Feng Xiao appear, he strode outside. "The people have arrived, let's go." Lu Feng nodded, followed Feng Xiao to the elevator, went to the lobby on the first floor. A group of people sat in the rest area, saw Lu Feng coming down. A young man came over, looked at Lu Feng, and looked quite provocative. "You're Lu Feng." He took out a cigarette from his pocket and threw it to Lu Feng. "I'm Hong. I'm not interested in knowing what gang you belong to, it has nothing to do with me." Lu Feng interrupted him. "Damn it, it's a bit of a dick, let me tell you. It's just to escort you from the hotel to your residence. No matter if you encounter danger or not, we will pay for it, understand?" the young man said to Lu Feng. "I'll talk about the ugly first. To the front." Feng Xiao was a little unhappy on the side. He spoke so vigorously, as if he owed him money, but Lu Feng understood that he brought so many younger brothers at a young age, facing a young man about his age. Of course, to show his arrogance. People want to earn money, but also to have face. "Thank you, it's hard work." Lu Feng still understood his heart very well, gave him enough face, took out a few thousand Hong Kong dollars from his pocket, put it in his hand, and said, "Brothers have worked hard, this money is my personal one. Mind, go out for a drink when you're done, don't worry, pay as you go." "It's so humming interesting." The young man grinned, put the money in his pocket, and said with a row of Lu Feng's shoulders, "I've seen rich people, but you're good at talking like a person, not like a man. It's the chops. I like bold people too, let's go." Lu Feng walked towards the door. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 567. A group of people went out to get into the car, and the young man who took the lead lit the cigarette in his hand. Lu Feng had not smoked for a long time, but in order to save his face, he still lit the cigarette. The man who was staring at Lu Feng outside, rode a motorcycle and hurried away. The 6 cars turned around and left. There were more people at night, and the speed was not fast. Lu Feng lowered the car window and looked outside to observe the passers-by. "Brother Feng, don't worry, if things go wrong in a while, I'll drive you away, Feng Xiao said confidently while holding the steering wheel. Lu Feng did not speak. Several motorcycles flew into the alley and shouted, "Brother Zhu, people have already left the hotel, they are looking for someone, it seems to be from another hall. I don't care who he is, copy guy." At the same time, everyone grabbed a piece of black cloth. The black cloth was wrapped in a long strip. When others saw this, they were scared to avoid it. Some people already felt that tonight was not peaceful, and hurriedly ran along the path to other streets. The boys on the motorcycle twisted the accelerator, the motorcycle let out a low growl, turned around in place, and galloped towards the street in front. Not long after the car was driving, a motorcycle suddenly sprang out from the intersection in front and crossed the middle of the road. The two motorcycles at the back came out and blocked it directly. Pedestrians on the road are also used to this kind of thing, and hurriedly trotted to the outside. The car door opened, and everyone got out of the car. The young man in the lead smoked a cigarette, looked at the person who was blocking the way, and shouted, "Do you humming know who I am? Blocking my car? You don't want to live anymore, do you? I don't care who you are, it's too late to get out now, otherwise don't blame me for being rude," the boy on the motorcycle shouted at him. "And let me get out? Believe it or not, I cut you to death with a knife." "Who are you going to hack to death?" Brother Zhu strode over, saw the young man taking the lead, and said, "It turned out to be a black dog. I haven't settled with you for robbing Laozi's stall last time. Today got the hum on my head again. Who are you calling a black dog? There's something to try again. Believe it or not, hack you to death." The little brothers of the black dog are more excited than each other, and they are about to start. The nickname of the young man is Black Tiger, but those who do not deal with him are called black dogs. "Ju, don't talk nonsense, you're not going to fight with me today, right?" The black dog stared at Brother Zhu and asked. The younger brother on Brother Zhu's side is angry. Humming the horse is the biggest insult to Brother Zhu, because some people joked with him before, saying that he has no control after drinking, let alone women, even donkeys will not let go. Nickname. Sitting in the car, Lu Feng was a little speechless. He heard so many disgusting people's gossip for no reason. Brother Zhu stepped forward and said, "I tell you, don't mess with me, we each have our own territory, and if it doesn't work, just report it. What's the point of these people fighting? Today, I'll give you a face and grab the stall. Put it down first, you can just get out, what I want is the person in the car. If the black dog is really gone, he shouldn't come out and hang out. It has nothing to do with money anymore. Even if Lu Feng doesn't give him money at this moment, he has to do it. I'm telling you, you are nothing in my eyes, what the hum can you do to me?" The black dog glared provocatively. The younger brother next to Brother Zhu couldn't bear it any longer, and shouted, "Damn, believe it or not, I hacked you to death. Chop it and try it," the black dog shouted at the younger brother next to him, "Copy guy." A group of people opened the trunk and took out the knives in unison. The two parties had already taken a stance. The atmosphere at the scene was tense, and if they disagreed, they would start working. Feng Xiao obviously had never experienced such an occasion. He held the steering wheel nervously and wanted to back up the car. The car window next to Lu Feng was still down. He stretched out his hand, and the cigarette between his fingers was almost burned out. The black dog turned and glanced at Lu Feng, and suddenly, Brother Zhu shouted, "Kill me." Lu Feng looked at the black dog with a smile on his face, and whispered, "Let him kill." The melee between the two sides was about to break out, swords, shadows and screams, and for a moment, it was like a hell on earth. Lu Feng saw a kid staring at him, and rushed here with a knife. He raised the car window in a hurry and slashed the glass with a knife, causing Feng Xiao to scream in fright. "What's your name?" Lu Feng looked at him and wondered, the car you drive is a Bentley customized by your father, bulletproof, let alone a person holding a knife. These people are all holding knives, surrounded by if you cut with this car, you won't be able to cut it in a few hours. Feng Xiao just remembered that he was too nervous and forgot. Outside, there are constantly falling younger brothers. The black dog obviously can't handle Brother Ju. He was stabbed and covered with blood. The ground is full of people. Obviously not physically fit. He stared at the black dog with a gloomy gaze. The new hatred and the old hatred were counted together today. He waved at the younger brother next to him, and several people rushed towards him with knives. The black dog was frightened, turned his head and ran towards the car, opened the car door, pulled out a long gun directly from the seat, turned his head and aimed directly at the younger brothers who were rushing up. The younger brothers were frightened and hurried back. Come on. Isn't it very arrogant? Come on, the black dog aimed his gun at a few younger brothers. These young people are hot-blooded, but they are not brain-dead. They know that life is very precious. Guns have little chance of surviving. The knife in his hand was thrown on the ground, and he knelt down on the ground with a normal sound. Brother Ju slowly put the knife down and persuaded him, Brother Haihu, don't be stupid, as soon as you shoot, you will be finished. What did the gang tell you? You know better than me, everyone is here to hang out, it's just for money and women, no need. Kneel down for me. Kneel down, the black dog shouted. Brother Ju slowly knelt on the ground, his face was a little frightened. He is now gambling, betting that the black dog has not become a mad dog, and that he is still rational. The black dog walked in front of a younger brother, raised his foot and kicked his face in the face, shouting, Isn't it very arrogant just now? I will try to slash again, follow the big guy in the ice room, wear a suit to take the big brother, don't you think feeling good? Huh. As the black dog was talking, he kicked his head again, and Brother Ju next to him didn't dare to speak at all. Isn't it your little brother? Why didn't you talk? Believe it or not, I shot you out of the head? Know it as Brother Haihu. Brother Ju squeezed out a smile, knelt there and dared not speak. Let me tell you, not only will I take care of the gates I occupied, but I will also take care of the gates you're taking care of now. From today onwards, all the protection fees for these 8 streets will be mine, do you hear me? I heard Brother Ju gritted his teeth. What about your protection fee? Brother Ju hurriedly took out the money from his body, and everyone took out all the money from his body, and then ran away with his own people. The black dog came over and knocked on the car glass. Lu Feng lowered the car window and looked at him. My little brother is injured, I also need to go to the hospital, you can go back by yourself, the black dog said to Lu Feng. Okay, hard work, Lu Feng asked Feng Xiao, do you have any money with you? There are some. Feng Xiao took out a few thousand yuan, and took out more than 10,000 yuan from the glove box and handed it to Lu Feng. Lu Feng took the money and gave it to the black dog, for a little medical expenses, the follow-up money will be paid soon. Came here. The black dog looked at Jian and smiled, and said to Lu Feng, it's so humming refreshing, I just like to deal with people like you, the car behind you will move away for you, let's go. Thanks. Lu Feng raised the car window, the car behind moved away, Feng Xiao backed the car out, and then sped away with a kick of the accelerator. It really cost a lot of money to hire the black dogs. Lu Feng gave more than 20,000 yuan in change, but what makes people feel ridiculous is that the money they earned might not be enough for this customized Bentley. A few dollars in repairs. Their life is not as expensive as a wheel of this car. Feng Xiao sighed in relief as he drove the car out of this area and said, I will never come here in my life. So you still have to read more. You have a choice. Those people don't have a choice. It's okay to have a natural temperament. If you are weak and stay in such an environment, you have no other choice but to be bullied. Lu Feng leaned on the back seat. You go to a high-end bar to open a booth, and they have to die. Those have nothing to do with me, they don't seek to make progress. Hearing this, Lu Feng didn't say anything. He is a wealthy young master, and he doesn't know anything about the bottom of the society. No matter how bad his studies are, he can study abroad. As long as people who are not stupid, they can't be too bad in such an environment. As for the so-called motivated, it is even more nonsense. There are too many people in this world who have no choice. At a glance, it is doomed to have no choice. Back at the hotel, Lu Feng was afraid of another accident, so he simply packed his things, moved to another hotel, and called Mr. Feng as soon as he entered the room. "Hey, Mr. Feng, I've returned to the hotel," Lu Feng said into the phone. "Safety is good, better than anything else," Mr. Feng said on the phone. "When the market opens tomorrow, how much do you think the stock of Chen's capital will fluctuate? Many institutions are now watching. As long as there is a slight sign, it will be unstoppable like a flood bursting its banks," Lu Feng said solemnly. "I need an introduction, so let's do it. I have a few accounts and hold some stocks of Chen's capital. I will use this introduction for you when the market opens tomorrow. I will get things done within this week and make a blitz." Mr. Feng is confident entirely. "As long as you can be as steady as Mount Tai, I'm not panic at all," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Xiao is at your place, let him not come back and stay at your place. I don't have much to do these days. I have meetings every day, don't talk too much, and rest early," Mr. Feng ordered. Hang up the phone after a few words. Lu Feng put down the phone and said to Feng Xiao, "Your dad asked you to stay here and open another room. Okay, it's better to stay with you here." Feng Xiao stood up and walked towards the door. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 568. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the phone of Mr. Chen's house rang. After picking up the phone, Mr. Chen's face turned ashen after listening to the content, and he shouted, "What's the use of asking you guys? You can't do this, and you still want to ask me for money." After Mr. Chen finished speaking, he slammed the phone on the landline, and his face was extremely ugly. "Mr. Chen, what's going on?" Su Yorong came over and asked with concern. "You calm down and drink some water." President Chen didn't want to pay attention to Su Yorong. She sat down and frowned. She was thinking about how this matter leaked out. She looked at Su Yorong and thought it was unlikely. She has been under her nose all day, and there is nothing abnormal at all. President Chen sighed and took the water and said, "You're welcome, the current situation is out of control. No one knows what will happen tomorrow." Mr. Chen looked at Su Yorong with a worried expression. "For me, this may be a catastrophe." When Su Yorong heard this, she hurriedly sat beside her and comforted, "It's all right, no matter what, I will accompany you, no matter what the storm will pass." "This Lu Feng has a lot of background," Mr. Chen muttered to himself, his eyes full of worry. "He has no power here. The night is already deep, and the city that never sleeps is still brightly lit. If you look at it from above, it is only a few dozen kilometers away from Shenzhen next door, and the lights here are even brighter. Under the night, young people are indulging wildly, while more people are lying in bed thinking about what to do with the opening tomorrow. Whether the current situation of Chen Capital is an opportunity or a danger, no one knows." The next day, the peach-colored news about President Chen in the morning became even crazier. Most of the pages contained these contents, and they were even more explicit. When Mr. Chen arrived at the door of the company, he was surrounded by a group of reporters as soon as he got out of the car. "Excuse me, what is the relationship between you and the richest man in mainland China, Lu Feng? Can you reply? Did this matter deal a heavy blow to Chen's capital stock today?" Yesterday, Lu Feng was intercepted near the Tianhai Hotel. Did you instruct me? How does the board of directors of Chen's Capital currently view the impact of this incident on the company? Don't you mean to announce last year's operating financial report as soon as possible? When is it as soon as possible? Can it be released today? Mr. Chen was about to explode with anger, and shouted at the security guard in the distance, "What are you doing? Stop, I don't need to respond to you, the company is operating very well, and the financial report will be announced as soon as possible. We'll fight to the end." A group of security guards rushed over, pushed the reporter away, and protected President Chen into the building. This incident has become the most explosive news in the Hong Kong financial industry. At 9 o'clock, everyone began to stare at Chen Capital's stock. A few traders in a stock exchange were sitting and chatting, looking relaxed. As soon as the market opens today, the most dazzling is definitely Chen's Capital. No matter how much other stocks rise, they are not as exciting as the 2-point fluctuation of Chen's Capital. Today's good show, let me tell you, Chen's Capital is messed up. How can a mainland boy mess up like this? Did you hear that someone was killed outside the hotel yesterday? I don't think it will last long. I've always wondered why he's still alive. If he were an ordinary person, he would have died a long time ago. A man in his 30s walked over with a glass of water, sat down and said, "Speaking less is useless. What kind of turmoil can a mainland boy cause? That is, you like to read gossip, finance is a war without gunpowder, stocks, what do you see when the transaction falls? It's the bookmaker, it's the institution. Can a mainland boy influence these big financial companies? I'll just say this kind of rubbish is an eye-catching thing. I've been attending banquets a lot these days, eating and drinking, and a few wild models are flirting with him. It's just unbearable, and the lively days have passed. Most of the people's words are ridicule and contempt. In the hearts of ordinary people, even if they are the richest man from the mainland, they don't have much money. This kind of mentality is very serious. It's like some foreign garbage coming to China. Is a kind of psychology. Tang Zongren is not in the company today, but went to the exchange to keep an eye on the market. This is very important to him. It is the first time in his life that he has been recognized by his father. Or against something as big as shorting the stock market. He was sitting in the VIP room, with tea and pastries on the table on the right, and a staff member in professional attire on the left, looking a bit seductive. Beauty, to Tang Zongren, is as important as air. His motto is that there is no difference between humans and animals, except for eating, drinking, and sleeping, the rest is mating. At 9:30, the market opened on time. Chen's Capital opened the market higher by 1 point, bought 10 million, and then began to decline. Retail investors sold more, fell 1 point, and the value leveled off. The trading time of more than 10 minutes has always been a small fluctuation. When some retail investors sell, someone immediately takes the order. It seems that they want to maintain a stable situation. In the exchange, some traders were staring at Chen Capital's stock, and the few people who had scolded Lu Feng just now patted their thighs excitedly and shouted, "I just said that he can't make a difference. There will be no fluctuations. I've told you, a mainland boy still wants to shake Chen's Capital, it's ridiculous." As soon as Chen's Capital announces its financial report in a few days, even a large institution will have to weigh it up. Lu Feng has no turning back. His plan is completely over. After all, it's a joke. In the VIP room, Tang Zongren hugged the girl and laughed loudly, shouting, "After all, he is a clown, attending banquets everywhere, advocating the collapse of Chen's Capital stock, but he didn't even move a hair, but he is just a vulgar savage from the countryside who only fights." Fight. Tang Zongren said that he was excited, turned his head and took a sip on the girl's fragrant lips. Be energetic. Lu Feng didn't go to the exchange, but turned on the radio, because the incident was so violent that the radio stations that broadcast the stock were all staring at Chen Capital's stock and talking about it. The trading volume of Chen's Capital stock is relatively small today, but the trading is relatively frequent. It stretched a little more than a point just now, and now it has fallen again. Oh, today's Chen's Capital is definitely a contest between retail investors and retail investors. I believe that many retail investors have been fooled by the guy in the mainland. The stock is very stable today. Okay, the latest trading volume is rising, and the support is very stable. When Lu Feng faced reporters, he was eloquent, claiming that he would completely destroy Chen's Capital today. However, what we are seeing now is that he is just letting go. It's just a cannonball. As I said the day before yesterday, standing in front of the media like Lu Feng, wanting to rely on some outrageous remarks to challenge major institutions, is definitely a man of arms. See it as a joke, don't take it to heart. Feng Xiao listened to the voice on the radio, and his whole person was a little worried. Seeing Lu Feng sitting on the sun lounger on the balcony, he couldn't help but say, "Brother Feng, should we take action?" "Wait, let them liven up for a few minutes. Do you know when a disgusting person can make a person the most disgusting?" Lu Feng closed his eyes and meditated. "When?" "It's lunchtime." At 11:40 noon, Mr. Chen stood up with a smile on his face. Her heart was finally relieved. It could only be said that it was an accident with heavy thunder and rain. She picked up the phone on the table and called the board members. In the past 2 days, the board of directors has put too much pressure on her. Today, she has to raise her eyebrows. Tang Zongren raised his pants and watched the stock trend of Chen's Capital. He felt that he was physically exhausted and needed to eat lunch to replenish it. The staff in the exchange seemed to have lost interest in Chen's Capital stock, and only occasionally chatted a few times, with a tone full of calmness. Now, the big picture is set. Lu Feng opened his eyes and glanced at the time. At 11:49, he picked up the phone and called the Feng family. "Mr. Feng, it's me," Lu Feng said to the phone. "Now Chen's Capital has risen a lot. If you throw it away, you should be able to make a small profit. If you don't have much in your hand, I still have it. Hold some and toss in the afternoon." "No, I have enough." After Mr. Feng said, he hung up the phone and dialed another number. After the call was connected, he said solemnly, "Chen's Capital stock, throw it away." The phone answered. At 11:58, there were basically no fluctuations at this time. Many people had already stood up and were going to eat. The traders were chatting and getting off work. In the next second, the stock of Chen's Capital, which had been stable, suddenly plunged, and more than a dozen accounts sold stocks worth 700 million yuan. The original slightly tortuous stock circuit diagram suddenly plummeted downwards, as if slashed by a knife, and went down in unison. Dropped 10%. What? What happened? What happened? I lost. Hey, you lost your mother. Everyone in the exchange was shocked. Seeing the stock suddenly sold by Chen Capital, the whole person was dumbfounded. Tang Zongren, who was about to go to dinner, turned around and glanced at the screen. He was dumbfounded and dared not say anything. What happened? What's going on? Who dumped? Which institution's stock was dumped? Crazy. In an instant, everyone panicked, and retail investors couldn't bear such a slump. They wanted to sell, but the trading time had ended. Closing this line is like a flat road, and suddenly there is an abyss ahead. As for whether there is still such a plunge, no one dares to bet. In the securities company, the traders looked at the trend image at the close, like a ghost, stood up and shouted, "Chen's Capital plummeted." Plummet at the close. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 569. At 10 o'clock in the evening, the phone of Mr. Chen's house rang. After picking up the phone, Mr. Chen's face turned ashen after listening to the content, and he shouted, "What's the use of asking you guys? You can't do this, and you still want to ask me for money." After Mr. Chen finished speaking, he slammed the phone on the landline, and his face was extremely ugly. "Mr. Chen, what's going on?" Su Yorong came over and asked with concern. "You calm down and drink some water." President Chen didn't want to pay attention to Su Yorong. She sat down and frowned. She was thinking about how this matter leaked out. She looked at Su Yorong and thought it was unlikely. She has been under her nose all day, and there is nothing abnormal at all. President Chen sighed and took the water and said, "You're welcome. The current situation is out of control. No one knows what will happen tomorrow." Mr. Chen looked at Su Yorong with a worried expression. "For me, this may be a catastrophe." When Su Yorong heard this, she hurriedly sat beside her and comforted, "It's all right, no matter what, I will accompany you, no matter what the storm will pass." "This Lu Feng has a lot of background," Mr. Chen muttered to himself, his eyes full of worry. "He has no power here. The night is already deep, and the city that never sleeps is still brightly lit. If you look at it from above, it is only a few dozen kilometers away from Shenzhen next door, and the lights here are even brighter. Under the night, young people are indulging wildly, while more people are lying in bed thinking about what to do with the opening tomorrow. Whether the current situation of Chen Capital is an opportunity or a danger, no one knows." The next day, the peach-colored news about President Chen in the morning became even crazier. Most of the pages contained these contents, and they were even more explicit. When Mr. Chen arrived at the door of the company, he was surrounded by a group of reporters as soon as he got out of the car. "Excuse me, what is the relationship between you and the richest man in mainland China, Lu Feng? Can you reply? Did this matter deal a heavy blow to Chen's capital stock today? Yesterday, Lu Feng was intercepted near the Tianhai Hotel. Did you instruct me? How does the board of directors of Chen's capital currently view the impact of this incident on the company? Don't you mean to announce last year's operating financial report as soon as possible? When is it as soon as possible? Can it be released today?" Mr. Chen was about to explode with anger, and shouted at the security guard in the distance, "What are you doing? Stop, I don't need to respond to you, the company is operating very well, and the financial report will be announced as soon as possible. We'll fight to the end." A group of security guards rushed over, pushed the reporter away, and protected President Chen into the building. This incident has become the most explosive news in the Hong Kong financial industry. At 9 o'clock, everyone began to stare at Chen Capital's stock. A few traders in a stock exchange were sitting and chatting, looking relaxed. As soon as the market opens today, the most dazzling is definitely Chen's Capital. No matter how much other stocks rise, they are not as exciting as the 2-point fluctuation of Chen's Capital. Today's good show, let me tell you, Chen's Capital is messed up. How can a mainland boy mess up like this? Did you hear that someone was killed outside the hotel yesterday? I don't think it will last long. I've always wondered why he's still alive. If he were an ordinary person, he would have died a long time ago. A man in his 30s walked over with a glass of water, sat down and said, "Speaking less is useless. What kind of turmoil can a mainland boy cause? That is, you like to read gossip, finance is a war without gunpowder, stocks what do you see when the transaction falls? It's the bookmaker, it's the institution. Can a mainland boy influence these big financial companies? I'll just say this kind of rubbish is an eye-catching thing. I've been attending banquets a lot these days, eating and drinking, and a few wild models are flirting with him. It's just unbearable, and the lively days have passed. Most of the people's words are ridicule and contempt. In the hearts of ordinary people, even if they are the richest man from the mainland, they don't have much money. This kind of mentality is very serious. It's like some foreign garbage coming to China. Is a kind of psychology. Tang Zongren is not in the company today, but went to the exchange to keep an eye on the market. This is very important to him. It is the first time in his life that he has been recognized by his father. Or against something as big as shorting the stock market. He was sitting in the VIP room, with tea and pastries on the table on the right, and a staff member in professional attire on the left, looking a bit seductive. Beauty, to Tang Zongren, is as important as air. His motto is that there is no difference between humans and animals, except for eating, drinking, and sleeping, the rest is mating. At 9:30, the market opened on time. Chen's Capital opened the market higher by 1 point, bought 10 million, and then began to decline. Retail investors sold more, fell 1 point, and the value leveled off. The trading time of more than 10 minutes has always been a small fluctuation. When some retail investors sell, someone immediately takes the order. It seems that they want to maintain a stable situation. In the exchange, some traders were staring at Chen Capital's stock, and the few people who had scolded Lu Feng just now patted their thighs excitedly and shouted, "I just said that he can't make a difference. There will be no fluctuations. I've told you, a mainland boy still wants to shake Chen's Capital, it's ridiculous." As soon as Chen's Capital announces its financial report in a few days, even a large institution will have to weigh it up. Lu Feng has no turning back. His plan is completely over. After all, it's a joke. In the VIP room, Tang Zongren hugged the girl and laughed loudly, shouting, "After all, he is a clown, attending banquets everywhere, advocating the collapse of Chen's Capital stock, but he didn't even move a hair, but he is just a vulgar savage from the countryside who only fights." Fight. Tang Zongren said that he was excited, turned his head and took a sip on the girl's fragrant lips. Be energetic. Lu Feng didn't go to the exchange, but turned on the radio, because the incident was so violent that the radio stations that broadcast the stock were all staring at Chen Capital's stock and talking about it. The trading volume of Chen's Capital stock is relatively small today, but the trading is relatively frequent. It stretched a little more than a point just now, and now it has fallen again. Oh, today's Chen's Capital is definitely a contest between retail investors and retail investors. I believe that many retail investors have been fooled by the guy in the mainland. The stock is very stable today. Okay, the latest trading volume is rising, and the support is very stable. When Lu Feng faced reporters, he was eloquent, claiming that he would completely destroy Chen's Capital today. However, what we are seeing now is that he is just letting go. It's just a cannonball. As I said the day before yesterday, standing in front of the media like Lu Feng, wanting to rely on some outrageous remarks to challenge major institutions, is definitely a man of arms. See it as a joke, don't take it to heart. Feng Xiao listened to the voice on the radio, and his whole person was a little worried. Seeing Lu Feng sitting on the sun lounger on the balcony, he couldn't help but say, "Brother Feng, should we take action?" "Wait, let them liven up for a few minutes. Do you know when a disgusting person can make a person the most disgusting?" Lu Feng closed his eyes and meditated. "When?" "It's lunchtime." At 11:40 noon, Mr. Chen stood up with a smile on his face. Her heart was finally relieved. It could only be said that it was an accident with heavy thunder and rain. She picked up the phone on the table and called the board members. In the past 2 days, the board of directors has put too much pressure on her. Today, she has to raise her eyebrows. Tang Zongren raised his pants and watched the stock trend of Chen's Capital. He felt that he was physically exhausted and needed to eat lunch to replenish it. The staff in the exchange seemed to have lost interest in Chen's Capital stock, and only occasionally chatted a few times, with a tone full of calmness. Now, the big picture is set. Lu Feng opened his eyes and glanced at the time. At 11:49, he picked up the phone and called the Feng family. "Mr. Feng, it's me," Lu Feng said to the phone. "Now Chen's Capital has risen a lot. If you throw it away, you should be able to make a small profit. If you don't have much in your hand, I still have it. Hold some and toss in the afternoon. No, I have enough. After Mr. Feng said, he hung up the phone and dialed another number. After the call was connected, he said solemnly, Chen's capital stock, throw it away. The phone answered. At 11:58, there were basically no fluctuations at this time. Many people had already stood up and were going to eat. The traders were chatting and getting off work. In the next second, the stock of Chen's capital, which had been stable, suddenly plunged, and more than a dozen accounts sold stocks worth 700 million yuan. The original slightly tortuous stock circuit diagram suddenly plummeted downwards, as if slashed by a knife, and went down in unison. Dropped 10%. What? What happened? What happened? I lost. Hey, you lost your mother. Everyone in the exchange was shocked. Seeing the stocks suddenly sold by Chen Capital, the whole person was dumbfounded. Tang Zongren, who was about to go to dinner, turned around and glanced at the screen. He was dumbfounded and dared not say anything. What happened? What's going on? Who dumped? Which institution's stock was dumped? Crazy. In an instant, everyone panicked, and retail investors couldn't bear such a slump. They wanted to sell, but the trading time had ended. Closing this line is like a flat road, and suddenly there is an abyss ahead. As for whether there is still such a plunge, no one dares to bet. In the securities company, the traders looked at the trend image at the close, like a ghost, stood up and shouted, Chen's capital plummeted. Plummet at the close.